So that's the nutshell of me, and probably how I ended up being talking to you today.
Okay, so what does a nice guy look like? Like the one that you write about in your book?
Okay, and I'll talk about specifically nice guys, but I'll also say that a lot of things I talk about, a lot of your women listeners will probably relate to as well, because there's been nice girls around forever.
Okay, so it's the same problem for men and women?
At its base, it is. It then manifests often in a little bit different ways for men and women,
Okay.
but the base core paradigm is a nice guy or a nice girl doesn't believe they're okay just as they are. And we mentioned Adam Lane Smith, and he did a really good job talking about how children internalize at a very young age any negative, painful experience as being caused about them. All children are
Mm-hmm.
very narcissistic. They're the center of their world. And so when something painful happens, we believe I must have caused that, which then turns into a grandiose belief system that has two sides to it. One is that I'm so bad, I cause people to leave me, hurt me, cry, be depressed, drink, yell, scream, whatever. And if I am that powerful to cause that, I also must be powerful enough to prevent that or fix it. So there's these grandiose beliefs that there's something so bad with me that I cause people to leave me or hurt me, and I must be powerful enough to prevent that from ever happening. So nice guys and nice girls basically then grow up. And by the way, this belief system is recorded at a very deep emotional part of our brain. It's recorded in our amygdala, where our emotional operating system is. So this isn't like words we have. It's not an intellectualization. It's not even like visual memory. It's just an emotional belief system down at our operating system that then affects every other part of our brain. And so we grow up to be children, adolescents, adults with a belief system. If I can just be good enough and become what I think other people want me to be, then I'll be liked and loved and get my needs met. And if I can hide anything about me that might get a negative response from other people, then I'll never get abandoned. So men and women both, that if they have these nice guys internalization or attachment issues, as Adam Smith called them, they might manifest differently for a guy than they do for a woman, but the core belief system is the same.
So here's the idea. If you're afraid of rocking the boat, if you're afraid of being, what's the word? Disagreeable. If you're afraid of saying no for fear that somebody might abandon you, then you're weak. And if you're weak, you're not an attractive man. That's the idea. It's very simple. You need to be able to say no. You need to be able to say, this is what I want. And if you can't say that, you're weak. Because women tend to be quite self-centered, solipsistic. So they know what they want. And they're not afraid to say it. They will tell you what they want. They just don't tell it directly. They'll tell it indirectly. They'll tell it through their implications, right? They like women tend to be afraid to be ostracized from the group, so they imply what they want. But still, they do communicate it, right? Because only their wants matter, right? Being solipsistic. But for men, like nice men, they're so afraid of rocking the boat that they don't think that they should do anything that might bother somebody else. Hello and welcome to theheliosblog. My name is Helios, here for another reaction video. If you're new to the channel, liking the content, hit that sub, hit all for notifications. If you'd like to support me, I do have Patreon with exclusive content. Patreon.com/theheliosblog. Newly revamped, guys, posting content weekly. So I have deleted videos off of YouTube, they don't like when you talk about certain topics, so those are on there. They're on my Patreon. So if you're interested in that, check it out. I also have scientific literature with commentary, so you can get an idea for the thinking underneath what we're talking about. Obviously, we're going to have stuff like Dr. David Buss and stuff like that. And I also have audiobooks read by me. So I'm going to take a curated list of RP literature and I'm going to read it. And you just, you can listen in the car or whatever. So just go there and check it out. Patreon.com/theheliosblog. You can also drop me a donation, like Tom M here. Shout outs to him. Okay, let's continue.
Is that there's something wrong with me. I'm not good enough. That's typically called toxic shame. I have to become something different, become what other people want me to be, and hide those, whatever that bad thing about me that I think is. And for most nice guys, what we tend to hide is our needs, our wants, and our sexuality.
That's right. Oh, and something else. Here's what's funny, actually. The way that he's phrasing it, Dr. Glover here, he's saying that hiding bad stuff about yourself is, like, bad to do. But it's actually not. It's not bad to hide bad stuff about yourself. It's just important to know what is to be avoided, right? So, hiding that you're weak, hiding when you want to cry or whatever, that is smart, because women hate weakness, right? And people in general. If they see that you're weak, they'll take advantage, right? Hiding when you feel scared or when you feel shame, right? These things are actually important to do. And when I say scared, I mean, you really don't like spiders. You really don't like snakes. Yeah, but in front of your girl, if you like scream and shout when you see a spider or a snake, like, you're going to lose respect immediately, actually, if anybody sees that, because that's weakness. But let's say you're afraid of the girl cheating on you. Well, you don't tell her that, but like mate guarding, for example. A lot of women actually find it attractive, right? Because they want to feel like owned by an alpha, right? So again, it really does depend on what you're hiding. But like, if you are hiding that you want to have bedroom fun, which is like literally base male nature, or if you're hiding that you have needs and you have wants, of course that's absurd, because then you're a doormat. You're a guy that can't express his own desires. But here's the thing. As a man, you're going to be the eventual leader of your relationship. If you can't express your desires, then you will just be wrenched around by everyone around you. You have to know yourself and what you want in order to be not happy, but at least not miserable, right? Okay, let's continue.
So we keep that all under wraps so we don't get a negative reaction from anybody.
Okay, so would that kind of nice person arrive from a childhood that was like overly stressful? Is that where it comes from? Or could it be a regular childhood and then you end up like that anyway?
You know, the word stressful is probably a really good application, because what happens, and I write about this in my book, is when I first started looking at nice guy syndrome, I was looking at me. Right? So I thought, I'm a nice guy. How did I become a nice guy? Well, it's probably because I had this interaction with this type of interaction with my father, this kind of interaction with my mother. I was brought up in a fundamental Christian church that had a lot of, hellfire and brimstone messages. Just grew up in the 60s and 70s with angry feminism. Every man's a rapist, an erection's a sign of aggression. And so all these got internalized into my emotional brain. And I thought, okay, maybe all other nice guys are just like me, but I quickly came to realize they weren't. There's a lot of different factors, and you mentioned stress. However, we might experience stress, and a lot of this has to do with temperament, because you can have two children born into the same family with very different temperaments, and they handle the stresses very differently and develop different survival and defense mechanisms. So a lot for what I found with nice guys and nice girls, for many, it partly is just due to our natural temperament. I'm a fairly easygoing, don't rock the boat, want to make everybody happy kind of guy. It's my basic temperament.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So that's part of who I am. And then when you add those stresses, as you speak of.
Yeah, so again, if you're the kind of guy that just wants everyone to be happy, and you neglect your own needs, your own wants, your own desires, then obviously you're going to end up miserable, right? Because you as a man, okay, I don't know if you've seen Patrice O'Neill. He's extremely disagreeable, by the way, if you listen to his stuff. But anyway, Patrice O'Neill says this, and I think it's actually very wise. It's like, I put my girl as like 5th place in my life, like 5th on the list. So it's like, Number 1 is myself. Number 2 is my career. Number 3 is my mother. And then number 4 is her or something. Number 4. And then the friends are number 5 or something. And he's like, it's a huge honor for her to be there, right? But that's the point, right? Your girl and how other people feel cannot override you. Because ultimately, in your life, you are the one that is capable of making decisions. And you're the only person that's going to make decisions that benefit you. If another person makes a decision that benefits you, ultimately it's not because they're doing it for you. They're actually doing it for themselves, and you happen to also be a beneficiary, right? So keep that in mind, guys. If you're not fighting for you, who is? Okay. Yeah, this is article by Rolo Tomasi, and then we'll go back to the video. We'll do it almost live. As announced, I did the interview with Christian McQueen and Dagonet last Saturday, and the show is now live. Went for a solid hour and a half, so be prepared for a lot of content. I did my best to answer question submissions, but in an interview like this, it's difficult to go into depth. Okay. Oh, wow, this is useless. Okay, my bad. Let's Oh, okay, sorry. I just opened these interviews and they're useless. Okay, let's see. Adaptations. My bad, guys. Okay. Adaptations, part 1. Apologize for the interruption. Prior to the post-bedroom fun revolution era, men adapted to their socio-bedroom fun and relational realities based on a pre-acknowledged burden of performance. I've outlined the expectation of this period in the second set of books. When men transition from their comfortable blue pill perspective into the harsh reality that the red pill represents, the experience is a lot like Ball discovering that the set of rules he believed everyone was using wasn't so. Likewise, men who've been conditioned since birth to believe that women were using a common set of rules, a set where certain expectations and mutual exchange were understood, were in fact using their own set. Furthermore, these men just didn't get it, what they should have known all along with women, as well as men's feminized conditioning, and that this was founded in a second set of books. During the eras prior to the bedroom fun revolution, the first set of books was more or less an established ideal. Men were every bit as idealistic as they are today, but the plan towards achieving that ideal, if it was achievable, was preset for them. Even the worst of fathers or parents still had the expectations that their sons or daughters would follow that old order set of what they had done. For men, a greater provisioning was expected, but that provisioning was an integral aspect of a man's alpha appeal. The burden of performance was part of a man's alpha mindset, or at least partly paired with it. The danger in that mindset was that a man's identity tended to be caught up with what he did, usually a career, in order to satisfy that performance burden. Thus, when a man lost his job, not only was he unable to provide and meet his performance expectations in his marriage, but he also lost a part of his identity. Needless to say, this dynamic helped incentivize men to get back on the horse and get back to his identity and his wife's esteem, even if it was really her necessity to keep her involved with him. A lot of romanticism revolves around the times prior to the bedroom fun revolution, as if there was some golden era when men and women knew their roles and the influence of hypergamy was marginalized to the point that society was a better place than the place we find ourselves in today. And while it's undeniable that cultural shifts since the bedroom fun revolution have feminized and bastardized those old order social constructs, men will always adapt to these new conditions in order to affect their bedroom fun strategies. There's a lot of nostalgia so far as these idealized periods in the manosphere at the moment, seemingly more so as members mature past their gaming years and begin to feel a want for something more substantial. Men are the true romantics of the genders, so it's no great surprise their romantic, idealistic concept of love would run towards romanticizing a hopeful return to what they imagined those eras were like. It's kind of an interesting counter to how womanism and the feminine imperative paints these eras. Rather than some idyllic place where women appreciated men, womanists exaggerate and deride these times as oppressive, the bedroom fun revolution akin to the Jews leaving Egypt. What both failed to grasp is the realities of these eras were still as susceptible to human nature, the human nature described by what we call RP awareness, and both genders adapted to the social environments of the times. Condoms were widely available in the 1940s, and men painstakingly painted half-nude pin-up girls on the noses of their bombers. Women too adapted to that environment, from what lies beneath. Two books by John Costello, Virtue Undefined, Love, Bedroom Fun and War, in which all too much of the above female psychology manifested itself. Of the 5.3 million British infants delivered between 1939 and 45, over a third were illegitimate. And this wartime phenomenon was not confined to any one section of society. The babies that were born out of wedlock belonged to every age group of mother, concluded one social researcher. Some were adolescent girls who drifted away from homes which offered neither guidance nor wartime security. Still others were women with husbands on war service who'd been unable to bear the loneliness of separation. There were decent and serious, superficial and flighty, irresponsible and incorrigible girls among them. There were some who had formed serious attachments and hoped to marry. There were others who had a single lapse, often under the influence of drink. There were too the good time girls who thrived on the presence of well-paid servicemen from overseas, and ladies of the night with little moral restraint. But for the war, many of these girls, whatever the type, would never have had illegitimate children. And neither British nor American statistics, which indicate that wartime promiscuity reached its peak in the final stages of the war, take account of the number of irregularly conceived pregnancies that were terminated illegally. One official estimate suggests that 1 in 5 of all pregnancies was ended in this way. And the equivalent rate for the United States indicates that a total number of that for the war years could have been over 1 million. These projections are at best merely a hypothetical barometer of World War II's tremendous stimulus to extramarital and bedroom fun activity. The highest recorded rate of illegitimate births was not among teenage girls, as might have been expected. Both British and American records indicate that women between 20 and 30 gave birth to nearly double the number of pre-war illegitimate children, since it appears that the more mature women were the ones encouraged and more relaxed by the morals of wartime to enjoy themselves. It may be surmised that considerations of fidelity were no great restraint on the urge of older women to participate in the general rise in wartime promiscuity. So guys, what's the idea? The men went away and the women took advantage. Simple as that. If you're not there, if you're not emotionally relevant, doesn't matter. Women of the greatest generation were still women, and hypergamy, just like today, didn't care either. Dalrock made a fantastic observation in a post once, and I regret I don't have the link on hand, but paraphrasing, he said, "Every generation in bygone eras dated differently than the ones before it. Your parents dated in a social condition that was very different than your grandparents or their parents. No one in this generation is going to date like they did on happy days. I think it's important we don't lose sight of this, but it's also important to consider that in all those eras, men and women's bedroom fun strategies remained an underlying influence on them. All that changed was how they adapted to the conditions and the times." Okay, back to this. So this is your struggle. Basically, all men have struggled to get laid at all periods in history. But your struggle is the nice guy's struggle. You know, the being a loser who's feminized, who believes that women are sugar spice and everything nice, who puts his needs last, who doesn't know what he wants, who believes that, who believes that, what's it called? Doing whatever women want is the way to get laid, etc. So you have to unlearn that, become attractive, go to the gym, become a man that's worthy of value and competitive, and then you'll get what you want.
And those stresses would be anything that's painful or uncomfortable. You went through a lot of painful things as a child. I had surgery at 5 days old. And I can just imagine emotionally what that felt like to have, back then, parents didn't come to the waiting room. It wasn't nurturing and soft. And, I probably was just taken away from my parents, put on a cold table, put a mask over my face and wake up in pain. And, how does a child at 5 days old internalize that information? It's not going to be done logically. It's done emotionally. Mm-hmm. And so whatever those stresses might be, it might be, our parents don't get along well. It might be that, that they repress their feelings. It might be that sexuality is repressed in the family. It might be that mom and dad fight a lot. It might be maybe our father was never there. It could be any number of things. It could be that we were hungry and didn't get fed quickly, or we, wet our diaper and didn't get changed quickly. Those kinds of things are the stresses that a child internalizes. I've got to find a way to not keep experiencing these painful experiences. And all children do this, not just nice guys or nice girls. All children develop defense survival mechanisms to try to do two things. Number one, cope with the uncomfortable feelings they're feeling in the moment. So I sucked my thumb till I was in kindergarten. That was a coping mechanism. Some children become needless and wantless. Some cry, some fight, some please, some smile all the time. That's how we try to manage the uncomfortable feelings.
Right, and what he's saying is that the smiling all the time, or the, being a people pleaser thing, actually works to your detriment when you leave that environment, because you are then taken advantage of by every single person that you meet, right? Because this is the adage: a fool and his money are soon parted, right? A fool and his self-respect are soon parted, effectively. Or a fool and his time are soon parted, right? Because ultimately, if you're spending your time pleasing others and not yourself, that means that you are benefiting them and not yourself, which means in the long term, you will be where you started and they will be better off. So you're destroying yourself by your own actions. And then it even makes sense why you don't get laid, because what benefit does a girl derive from a guy that isn't better 20 years later from where he was 20 years ago, right?
The second thing that we try to do is try to prevent the things that cause these uncomfortable feelings from happening again in the future. Now, take all of that bundle of stuff that we just talked about, fast forward that into adolescence and adulthood. We all have that emotional operating system we formalized at a very immature, helpless, dependent stage of life, and we assume that's the way the world works. And we go out into the world functioning from that emotional operating system. And even if, for example, we can't find any big trauma in our life, or our parents are still married and have a good marriage, anything uncomfortable or painful is stressful to a young dependent child.
This episode is brought to you by
No ads.
Future. I seriously cannot tell you how important it is to write out your traumatic experience. The present author. Enjoy the rest of this episode. What's the opposite of the Mr. Nice Guy? Like, if your coping mechanism isn't to be nice, like you're explaining, what's the opposite that can happen?
Well, what I call in the book is I call him an integrated male. Now, there could be any number of names: an authentic male, authentic person, integrated person. But basically, it's a person who's comfortable with their own feelings. They don't feel like they need to hide anything about themselves. They're open and visible and transparent. They're able to soothe their anxiety and take action rather than trying to manage their anxiety by medicating it away or managing people and situations outside of them. They're honest. They'll tell you what they think, what they feel, they want. They're not pursuing external validation or recognition. They're self-validating through their own actions, through their.
Right. This is true. If you only feel good when someone else tells you that you're doing well, there's something wrong. Because ultimately in life, people are selfish, right? They care about themselves more than they care about you. So you're almost never going to get validated, right? Unless you're a pretty girl between 18 and 23. But that's not what I'm talking about, right? You as a man. So you need to become the guy. You need to be your own cheerleader, right? Look at how well you're doing. Talk to yourself in a positive way. If you would never talk to somebody in a rude manner, how dare you talk to yourself in a rude way? If you stop talking to yourself like as though you're pathetic, it'll actually improve your life dramatically. You need to be your own cheerleader, your own pep talker, like rather than tearing yourself down whenever you make a mistake, because making mistakes is human. So whatever, it happens. It's about the actions that you take after the mistake, right? And there's more. And I love this expression. It's a famous chess player that said it. His name is Karpov, okay? He said, "The only man that doesn't lose is he who doesn't play." So if you are not... The only way for you not to suffer, not to struggle, not to lose, is for you not to do anything. And of course, in life, you're forced to do stuff. So since you're going to lose anyway, you might as well just go forward knowing that at some point you're going to lose, but it's okay. Because there's always another game is the idea, right? That's the abundance mentality, right? It's just by another name. The only guy who doesn't get rejected is he who doesn't approach, right? If you're going to approach, you're going to get rejected. And just because you get rejected doesn't mean you shouldn't approach, because you'll get the result you want eventually, right? Maybe not now, but in a week, in a month, in 5 months, 3 months, whatever. That's how it is, guys. Okay. So, next. From relationship advice. Me, 25 male, my girlfriend, 24 female, disagree on pre-relationship hookup. So a little backstory. We met in high school when we were 16 and 17. Since then, we have hooked up a few times in high school and a few times in college, but we were never anything serious. So he's an alpha male to her. I've been in a few serious relationships and just recently, before, lived with my ex of 3 years. She has had one unhealthy boyfriend in college, but was not treated very well and does not really count that as a true relationship. Besides that, she's never had a boyfriend. Yeah, so these girls, they say they've never had bedroom fun, they've never had relationships, but they do shit like this, where, like, oh, he was like this, so he doesn't count. And so half of the guys that they've slept with don't count. So she doesn't tell you about them, right? Fast forward. Oh, and by the way, when she says she never had a boyfriend, that's actually a huge red flag. It's actually better if she had boyfriends than if she didn't. If she didn't, it means she was banging Chad. She's much more likely to be an alpha widow. But anyway, fast forward to summer of 2022, we reconnect and start hanging out, texting more frequently. This time felt very different, as we've never consistently hung out or texted like this before. She'd come over to my apartment once or twice a week, and we'd talk all day, every day. It was around this time that I started catching feelings. I was under the impression that things were moving to a more exclusive position. After a month or two of this, she goes away on a family vacation and something's happened. While she was there, she had 2 separate one-night stands. So he wasn't an alpha to her. He was a beta bucks. He was a beta male. Prior to this vacation, she was not bedroom fun active for over a year, besides with me. When she comes back, I didn't know about the hookups. She invited me to help her move some stuff from her old college apartment. I thought this would be a lot of fun and confirmation she was feeling the same way about me. But this was a few hours away and we would be spending a whole weekend together. While we were there, I felt the timing was right to somewhat put a label on us and ask if we were exclusive. This definitely caught her off guard, as she did not give me a straight response. By the way, guys, if you want to push a girl away, easiest way is for you to ask her to be exclusive. She has to ask you. And before that, you can, I mean, it's open season, right? Okay. This left me with a lot of questions and kind of put a damper on the rest of the trip. After the weekend of helping her move, yeah, so see, she's using the guy for moving. She's using him while also sleeping with other guys. You see? He's the beta, they were the alpha. The dualistic mating strategy, you see? After the weekend of helping her move, she told me very honestly what had happened on her vacation, but that she was interested in being exclusive. So, I slept with 2 guys, but now I want to, it's like, I've had my fun, now I'm ready to settle down type crap, which is garbage. By the way, when she said she's never been in a relationship, she's been doing this like all the time. You gotta understand, this is not the kind of girl you date. This is the kind of girl that's for fun only. Like, look, she's admitting through her own actions what happened. Yeah, so she told me what happened. I expressed I was under the impression we both had feelings for each other and I felt cheated on. To her point, we have had casual hookups when we were younger and nothing serious ever seemed to come of it. She also told me she's not experienced in relationships and completely missed a lot of signs that I was throwing. We agreed to try and move on from this, and she drunkenly asked me to be her boyfriend only 2 weeks after her vacation. I drunkenly said yes, and we confirmed it again in the morning when we were more in the correct mindset. I was going to try to put this behind us, as she's an amazing person and we share many hobbies and interests. After about 5 months of us officially dating, I can honestly say I love her and we get along great. You don't know that you love her after 5 months. That's just lust. The only problem is I cannot seem to shake this vacation thing. That's right, because your hindbrain knows that in her eyes you're a beta male. This past week I've asked her for some space to really sit in my emotions and try to find an answer. He sounds like a girl here. Yeah, so it's obvious. He's the nice guy that Dr. Robert talks about, Dr. Glover. We're planning on meeting up tonight to come to a conclusion. I still feel hurt, but being hurt without her hurts just as much. I feel like she did not technically do anything wrong, but it's one of those scenarios where I either need to accept it and move on or end the relationship. I do not feel it's fair to keep making her relive it simply because I'm not over it. Yeah, she's not attracted to you that way. Top comment. Okay, back up. Did you say anything to her? She's not a mind reader. You have expectations that she didn't even know about. That's BS, right? That comment is BS. It's obvious that the guy is into you. The girl knows exactly what's going on. She's using the guy and sleeping with other guys. No. You can't hide behind this excuse, this plausible deniability crap. oh, you didn't communicate with me, therefore I slept with 25 other guys. No. That's garbage. All right. We're going to end the video there. Again, if you're new to the channel, liking the content, hit that sub, hit all for notifications. If you'd like to support the channel, I do have a Patreon exclusive content, patreon.com/theheliosblog. Just go there and subscribe. Again, guys, new content posting every week. We have deleted videos from YouTube. We have RP literature, like books that I read as audiobooks. You can just listen. And I have RP scientific literature, so you can learn where these ideas come from. You can also drop me a donation like Tom M here. Shout outs to him. Link is in the description. Again, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my video, especially if you listen to the end. You guys are wonderful. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.